Alright, so back with another video. This time I'm going to be talking about worth, value, vibration, and how certain choices you make in life align with certain vibrations, which thereby determines your worth and value. And also, one of the things I want to start off by saying is that all of us on this earth have worth and value, right? Just by being here, in the sense that the person who had you said when they had you that, hey, this future person has worth and value to me, therefore I'm going to bring them into this world, right? Cool. After that, after you're born, when you get old enough to start establishing your own sense of self, your worth and value then increases or decreases depending on what you put into yourself or what you don't put into yourself. And this also can be related to trauma and the ability to believe in oneself, and therefore sometimes if you aren't raised by parents or a parent who believes in you in some way, shape, or form, or helps you develop some sense of self-esteem or self-worth, that can be extremely challenging to establish within yourself unless you do a lot of healing. It's not impossible, but my point in saying that is that how you then respond to that trauma and choose to deal with that trauma also then determines your worth and value. So for example, if you've been through a lot of trauma and your response to that is going and selling your body on OnlyFans or on the street, I mean, that minimizes your worth and value down to the flesh, which, what's wrong with the flesh? Well, nothing, except for when it's used in that way to create lust and greed, and it breeds very low vibration. It can lead to violence. It's very violent against women's bodies. That's why I don't agree with this whole idea of, saying, oh yeah, sex work and let's accept this. No, let's not. Let's actually demand and encourage better for women and help them to see that their value is beyond their fucking body. We all are born with boobs and a butt. Cool. It's not special. What makes you actually special? Because that does not. Those are body parts. You feel me? So the point in me saying all of this and going on this rant, apparently, or supposed rant, is to get across the point that that's what's wrong with that, essentially. It's correlated with a lower vibration. It's correlated with a lower energy thereby, and it breeds other low vibrational activities and people. And where there is low vibration, where there is sickness, where there is illness, there cannot be health. There cannot be healing. There cannot be growth. There cannot be love where there is fear and despair. So, and don't even try to tell me, who's having fun having sex with multiple creepy old men or just people in general that seek you out and want to use you for your body? If you actually sit and process that you are being utilized as an object, an instrument, and that is what you are minimizing your value down to, an object, an instrument, which is literally at that point less than human. Or that's how you're allowing yourself to be treated. And so that is why it is so important to respect your body, value yourself, treat your body as the beautiful sacred temple that it is. You don't just allow anybody to see it. You don't just allow anybody to touch it or anything like that. That's why modesty is so important. Not because, slut shaming, which by the way is not fucking real. If you're walking around half naked, I'm sorry, we've got to put a label on it, because there should be some shame behind it, because you should respect your body enough to say, not everybody fucking deserves to see it. Period. That's why you practice modesty. That's why you practice that, because that not only protects, like I said, your body from being violated in other ways by the world, like people's eyes and creepy men that don't control themselves, which you can sit there all you want and say, oh, you should have to control yourself. But the reality of it is there are fucking sociopaths out here. There are fucking rapists and creepos who are not going to respect that. So the only way to protect yourself, and I'm not saying that would prevent you from being, assaulted, because that's not what it's about, is what you're wearing. But what I'm saying is, if we're talking about crossing boundaries in terms of guys looking at you or people looking at you in that way, that is kind of a violation of a boundary in a sense, but you're allowing it by creating that window for it by saying, hey, look at me in that way. Which, again, to me, minimizes your value down to your flesh, because then people are not focusing on who are you. They're focusing on, ooh, look at her, shit. So, again, women have to understand your body is beautiful and it's powerful, but don't abuse it. And by abuse it, I mean, don't be ignorant with it. Men are physical creatures. Fucking protect your body from their eyes, They're not gonna not look at you if you're half fucking naked. Like, stop being unreasonable and unrealistic. Like, oh, don't look at me, but my boobies and my ass are sticking out. Like, come on now. No. Fucking put some goddamn clothes on. There you go. It's called self-respect. Beautiful. Self-preservation. Woo, yes. I think we might be getting it. No, I'm just kidding, but for real. Like, that's why that's so important, because, self-respect and modesty, it is of a higher vibration. It exudes a sense of self-love, confidence. I'm not saying you can't, be confident and be half naked. I guess, sure, you can be. But I think that it sends a different message. And like I said, it minimizes you down to that, as opposed to showing people, hey, there's more to this woman than just that. So the other thing I wanted to say is that is why the choices we make in life are so important to think out and not just act from a place of emotion or impulse. And I think a lot of people tend to do that. People tend to get into situations, especially in their 20s, where they're not ready for it. They have no business going forward with it, and yet they do. Like having a kid, or getting married, or, making huge life decisions like that, and not thinking about how 10 years down the line, things are going to be different. You might not be with that person. More than likely you won't. So why would you want to be attached to that person? I think people, especially women, and I'm not, hating on women by any means. I'm just saying that I think it's important to look at not just how it feels and what you want based on how it feels, but what is the long-term consequence of this? Not only for you, but, for everybody involved in this decision. And I think humans a lot of times just in general don't think things through and act based on emotion, or act based on what society says is the proper thing to do, which, by the way, speaking of, brings me to this whole notion in society that, oh God, if a dumb, excuse my language, bitch decides to fucking have a kid, which I'm sorry I say dumb bitch, because to me this is super irresponsible and it pisses me off because it's traumatizing to a child. Having a kid when you're a teenager or super, super young, you're not setting your child up for success in life. I'm not saying they're not going to be successful, but you're definitely setting them at a disadvantage. People create more stress and baggage in their life than need be by not simply thinking through things before they fucking do them. I mean, straight up, that's as simple. I mean, I know that sounds simple as hell, but common sense ain't so common, right? It's like, no. Because people think or feel obligated, oh, this chick chose to have a kid when she's a teenager, and so therefore I'm obligated to be there to support, even though this chick is crazy and, you know, a child themselves and making a horrible decision by going through with the pregnancy or whatever. It's like, this is just another example of the choices we make and how it lowers your value. And I think making decisions like that, where it's like you're not considering how it's going to impact you in the future, how it's going to impact all parties involved, how it's going to impact your future in general. You don't even know what you want when you're 18 to 26, 25, you know, entirely. So it's like, to make a decision like that is very ignorant, because it's coming from an unwise place, I guess, because at that age you're not considering the fact that this decision is a forever decision. Forever. If your child needs a place to stay at 30, guess where they're going? Your place. You feel me? So I'm basically saying that the decisions we make either increase or decrease our value. I do think that if you choose to have a child out of wedlock young, that does decrease your value, whether you're a woman or a man. I think that decreases your value greatly, because if you go on then to be in a relationship with someone in the future, you are robbing that future person of, I mean, many things, like firsts with that person, having those experiences with that person first. You have an obligation to an entire other person because you made the bad decision to create an attachment to someone forever that you at the time could have thought through and realized that, you know, I'm probably not even gonna fucking like this person in 8 years or whatever. So that's why it's so important to consider the future, the long-term future. What do you really want? How is this really going to impact you? How is this really going to impact, like I said, all parties involved? And making decisions that are coming from a grounded place. Like I said, I think a lot of people make decisions from an unhealed, traumatized place, and that's why they find themselves in situations that are very low vibrational, because they are reenacting childhood traumas that have not been healed in adult relationship dynamics. So that's why you see similar patterns playing out over and over and over again, generation after generation. You know, you'll see a single mother have a baby, then that baby grows up, they're a single mother. It's the same thing, you know what I mean? Because they see that pattern and it's a repeat. So it's just like you subconsciously pick up on the same shit, unless you choose to become aware quick enough to be like, wait a second, I need to do something about this so I don't fuck up my life. Because it is unfortunate, and I hate to say it, but I think a lot of people do make big life decisions from a place of trauma. Most people do, actually. And by doing so, they don't realize that they're trapping themselves in the same dynamic that they grew up in, that they didn't heal. Because we tend to attract someone who is similar to the most dysfunctional parent that we grew up with. So if you're a man, the women that you date are probably like one of the more dysfunctional parents of yours, or probably somewhat like your mother. And I'm not saying your mother's unhealthy necessarily, I'm just saying that's usually the case. That you choose someone who's like your mother, and, you know, women tend to, vice versa or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, that is why it's so important to heal, so that you can make decisions from a higher vibrational place, where you are making decisions from a place of confidence, a place of peace, a place of self-love, a place of self-worth, a place of understanding your value and worth. And yeah, like I said, understanding your value and worth, because the decisions we make ultimately end up determining that in the end. Whether you made the decisions when you were young and, you know, whatever, or unconscious or unawakened or not, it still determines your value, because you have to remember that, like, we're all unawakened to a certain extent at some point, unless you're born with certain abilities, which, granted, you know, I guess it's hard for me to speak sometimes about it, because it's like, I think I had a head start because I was born with certain abilities, so I was able to recognize, okay, I need to get healing going, like, ASAP. You know, I just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of had that knowing, but that's because it's my mission. So it's like, I knew very early on somehow that, I guess some part of me knew that's what I was here to do. So my point in saying that is to say that unless that happens, which it very rarely does for a lot of people, sometimes you end up replaying or reliving those things. And granted, I mean, sometimes you don't. Sometimes people just break out of that and they're aware enough to be like, okay, I'm not going to make those same mistakes. And it's not that deep, I guess. However, that's not necessarily the case, because if you're talking about unhealed wounds that you're still harboring within yourself, that holds a certain energy to it and a vibration, and thereby impacts who you attract into your life still. So there's no way to go around the healing work. You have to do the healing work in order to get to a healthier, higher vibration where you're attracting higher vibrational people, situations, etc. into your life. So, like I said on that shorts, you know, your value is as high or low as you determine it to be. You can choose your value to be lower based on what you do or don't do, based on how you treat yourself and how you present yourself in the world, or don't. So I think that's literally pretty much it. Just know your value and worth before making huge decisions, because sometimes we can make decisions from a place of, like I said, a lack of awakening and a lack of knowing of ourselves, you know, like a disconnect from ourselves. We don't know ourselves yet, so we make decisions based on who we think we are, who we think we want to be at the time, not recognizing that the growing's not done yet, and that's not who we were meant to